You are listening to The Hero's Journey. I'm Jeff Garvin.
And I'm Dan Zarzana.
Let the journey begin. Welcome to another episode of The Hero's Journey, where we analyze your favorite books and films using Joseph Campbell's monomyth as a guiding light.
In our previous episode, we discussed the second most successful film of 1991, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. Costner and Company enjoyed a few solid weeks as the most successful film of that year, but then, on July 3rd, 1991, Terminator 2 Judgment Day arrived in theaters to rob from the Robin Hood and give to the James Cameron.
Stop.
T2,
Stop.
as it became affectionately known to fans, terminated the box office competition with a global take of $520 million against its $102 million budget.
Wow.
Directed by James Cameron, a man who has yet to make a bad movie.
I want to agree with that, but I have not seen his first film, Piranha 2: The Spawning.
Is that really a James Cameron film?
It's his first feature film, yeah.
It is his first credit, but he was hired by the producer, Ovidio Assanitis, after the firing of the first director, Miller Drake. The producer wanted a first-time director that he could push around and sidestep to make the movie how he actually wanted to make it, which he actually did very successfully. And he fired Cameron after 5 days of shooting. So
wow.
The two original directors of this film, Drake isn't even in the credits for Piranha 2, but Cameron is. And because Cameron was going to be credited as the director, he would break into the studio at night and make his own cut of the film.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Tidbits.
Isn't that
Thanks
rad?
for listening. Well done. Now that's commitment. I'm trying to make my first movie not suck.
Yeah, that's an impressive.
All right, let's erase
Hollywood
Piranha
story.
2. Erase the race. Just move
so do
on.
we think? Yeah, is Piranha 2 really a James Cameron movie?
Seems
I
like
don't
maybe
know.
we can't say it's a movie he made. So I'm gonna agree with your statement. He hasn't made a bad movie.
All right, Terminator 2 Judgment Day stars Edward Furlong in his feature film debut as John Connor, Linda Hamilton reprising her role as Sarah Connor, Robert Patrick as the lethal new Terminator Model T-1000, and the Austrian Oak, the Governator, a man who at age 74 years old is in better shape than you and I put together.
That's the painful truth.
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Arnold movies was the theme for this
Arnold.
episode's Patreon poll.
Yeah.
And we did this.
Yeah, you vote on the Patreon.
We did this because Melanie Nelson incessantly says how much she loves Dan's Arnold impression. So, Melanie, this one's for you. Exactly half the voters selected T2. True Lies was second with 29%, and Kindergarten Cop was third with 21%. I'm stunned that Kindergarten Cop did not place higher.
It has a cult following, yes indeed. I was pulling for True Lies myself. I love that film. But the voters have spoken, so we have to cover Terminator 2.
Whatever. I guess in addition to being the highest grossing film of 1991, Terminator 2 was nominated for 6 Academy Awards, 4 of which it won: Best Sound Effects Editing, Best Visual Effects, Best Sound, and Best Makeup. It was also nominated for Best Cinematography and Best Film Editing.
Okay, let's dig into this award-winning, money-making, franchise-spawning film. We need your clothes, your boots, and your motorcycle. This is the hero's journey of the Terminator 2, the Judgment Day. That was awful, Melanie Nelson. I'm so sorry.
Ooh, boy.
Act 1 of the hero's journey begins with the world of Common Day, where we see our main character in his or her status quo normal life. The film opens with some stereotypical shots of Los Angeles freeway traffic. And we hear Linda Hamilton as Sarah stating that 3 billion human lives ended on August 29th, 1997. Jeff, we're recording this on September 5th. We missed an opportunity to record this episode a month ago and release it on August 29th.
Well, they missed the release date, too, so it's kind of like a...
Fail.
It's an echo of that.
So we see a vision of the future, Los Angeles in 2029 AD, just 8 years from now.
Ooh.
And the machines are attacking. This is a reprise of the same scene from Terminator 1. We see the machines rolling across crushed human skulls and blasting with these really cool laser sound effects that the film won an Academy Award for. And then we cut back to the present day at the time, and the time travelers begin to arrive. Viewers of 1984's The Terminator may have expectations about who is who based on the events of that film and in the order in which they arrive. In the first film, Arnold arrives first, and then Kyle Reese arrives second.
Mm-hmm.
And in this film, Arnold also arrives first. Buck naked.
And his arrival carves a mysterious, sphere of disintegration around him. That has to be very inconvenient.
Disintegration.
It is the best Pixie song.
Disintegration.
That'll be from our future episode on Pump Up the Volume. We were just discussing our Christian Slater episode.
I mean, yeah. All right, so naked Arnold walks into a biker bar.
Yes.
And gets the attention of everyone.
Yeah.
Walks up to a dude who matches we see is this great view of his perspective, and
his
it's like
HUD.
Red screen, his HUD, exactly.
Yeah.
And he's looking around at all these people, and it matches him perfectly with this big bearded dude.
Yeah.
And he says the classic line,
I need your clothes, your boots, and your motorcycle.
And a bar brawl ensues where Arnold just thrashes everybody. But, eagle-eyed viewers, he doesn't kill anyone. Mm-hmm. This is the Terminator. So is this our clue that this is a different Terminator? It looks like the one from the first movie, but he hasn't killed anybody yet. He's certainly causing some medical bills. So anyway, he puts on the clothes, the boots, and we hear Bad to the Bone by George Thorogood and the Destroyers. It is an absolutely brilliant character introduction.
Yeah, it sets the tone for the whole movie, which is this is going to be fun and badass. And the thing I love about the Terminator is there is no pretense at martial arts. He is just brutally strong.
Yes.
And he will break you in. And he is almost like he is built for bar brawls. He throws people into walls and snaps their wrists and bashes them with things. It's just, I love that. If this were like a Van Damme movie, it would not work at all. You can't imagine like a Terminator that knows Kung Fu. They're kind of like, they're not the most lithe things.
They're not agile. Just, not his model. Not his model anyway. That's right. The T-1000's
By the way, I'm trying to find a place to ask this question of you, so I'll just ask it here. Why do the Terminator endoskeletons have teeth? Clearly, when we see Arnold, he doesn't have like metal teeth. He has organic teeth. That's just strange to me. It looks badass, but the Terminator skull should not have teeth. It should be
because I think a Terminator skull with teeth looks terrifying.
Agreed.
That's a scary looking thing. We've all seen robots without, C-3PO. He doesn't have teeth.
Yeah, I
He'd
guess
look weird if he had teeth.
A Terminator running at you and gumming you to death would sort of be unintimidating.
Because they have this permanent rictus grin.
Yeah, it's a skull.
As they come at you.
It's a representation of death, and a skull is a symbol of death. But still, Terminator teeth.
So have you just answered your own question then?
I mean, I just don't want to be the Terminator dentist, is what I'm saying to you.
I think it would be very easy. Just
polish.
Just get some spray polish and. Okay, where was I? Oh, Robert Patrick now arrives. Also sans clothes, but I can't tell if he kills the police officer that arrives to investigate the electrical disturbance that his time travel bubble causes.
It is unclear, and I wonder
not.
if that's unclear on purpose, James Cameron.
Right, and because, like I was alluding to before, in the first film, Kyle Reese is the one who arrives second. Mm-hmm. But he also, I don't know how long it's been since you've seen Terminator 1, but when Reese arrives, he is ill.
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't land in the perfect crouch like the others do. He falls over on his side and he feels nauseated.
Yeah.
Because of that trip through time. Robert Patrick does not display any of these. In fact, he looks just as robotic as Arnold Schwarzenegger's arrival.
Yeah.
Slowly looking around his head. When he turns his head, it's very robotic, and his eyes move slightly asynchronously with his head. Like the eyes follow the movement of the head rather than a human who, when we look somewhere, our eyes go there first and then our head turns to follow. It's almost the opposite, it seems like. Maybe I'm inserting that memory in my brain and it's not that way at all.
No,
but
it is.
Anyway, that's how good Robert Patrick's performance is as the T-1000.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
So, Robert Patrick as the T-1000. We don't know this yet. We don't know who this dude is yet. But puts on the cop clothes, gets into the cop car, types onto the computer, and he's looking for Connor, John. And thank God there's only one John Connor in Los Angeles, because it pops right on up with his name and address, and that he lives with foster parents. And off Robert Patrick goes after his quarry. Now we get the introduction to John Connor, played by Edward Furlong in his feature film debut. He lives with his foster parents, Todd and Janelle, in Reseda. Todd is played by Xander Berkeley. And Janelle is played by comedian Jeanette Goldstein, who, if she looked familiar to you, but you don't know the name, she also played Vasquez in Aliens.
Hey, Vasquez. Have you ever been mistaken for a man?
No. Have you?
What a great performance.
And she was in Titanic. She's like one of the
Yes.
James Cameron players, Jeanette Goldstein. Love her.
John is a juvenile delinquent. He's got a rap sheet.
Mm-hmm.
And as we see later, when he and his friend, played by Danny Cooksey, finish robbing an ATM using a little computerized device that John has created. Okay, so we're already seeing that John, even at age 10, is a little bit of a prodigy with some stuff.
Yeah, he designed C-3PO. That's right.
Right.
Are you an angel?
And as he's putting this ATM robbing device back into his backpack, his friend pulls out the photo. And this is the same photo that we see at the end of Terminator 1.
Oh,
and
right.
That Kyle Reese carries around. The one that John Connor gave to Kyle Reese.
Her jazzercise photo with the,
Yeah, right.
the headband.
Physical. And Tim says, "Oh, your mom's pretty cool, huh?"
Right.
And John says, "No, she's a complete psycho, a total loser," and tells him that she's locked up in a mental institution. So we get the sense that John is conflicted about his mom. He keeps a photo of her in his backpack, but he's not willing to admit his affection for her to his best friend.
Yeah.
Now, in the final segment of World of Common Day, we've got many characters to build Worlds of Common Day here for.
Yes, we do.
We get Sarah Connor, played by Linda Hamilton. This is a very different Sarah Connor than the one we saw at the end of Terminator.
Mm-hmm.
She's doing chin-ups in her room at the Pescadero State Mental Hospital as Dr. Silberman is giving a briefing to some pre-med students or visiting doctors. I wasn't really sure who these folks were, but anyway.
They are vehicles for exposition, is what they are.
He takes them to Sarah's room and gives them her psychiatric profile and history, and this is kind of the... If you haven't seen Terminator 1, this is who this character is, and she believes that a machine came from the future and tried to kill her. And
Yeah, really funny that James Cameron pokes fun at the whole premise of his movie in the first 10 minutes of the movie, basically. He has this character, and of course, the evil robots look like humans. You know, he's like making fun of his own movie. I love that.
A few moments later, Sarah and Dr. Silberman are having a meeting, but we're seeing footage of Sarah from the past where she's ranting and raving about Judgment Day and everybody here is going to die. Mm-hmm. Then we see Sarah very kind of sheepishly smoking a cigarette saying, I feel better now, clearer. And she tries to convince Dr. Silberman that she's well enough now to be transferred to the minimum security wing of the hospital where she can receive visitors and she can finally see her son. And Dr. Silberman says, I think you're too smart. You're telling me what you know I want to hear. I'm keeping you in maximum security for another 6 months. I think that is the World of Common Day for each of these 4 characters as we meet them before their calls to adventure. Very long sequence. It's like half an hour of the movie.
Yeah, I totally agree. I guess the only thing I would insert there is that at one point we see Miles Dyson. He's the eventual creator of the chip that allows Cyberdyne to create Skynet. And we see him in his fancy lab, and he takes the chip and we see the robot hand, and these are relics from the first Terminator.
Yes.
That helps set up the fact that this is a pre-existing condition of this world, that those two relics exist. But he's not, I don't consider him a main character, but there's that. That takes us to Call to Adventure. The hero is presented with a challenge, which renders him or her unable to continue living in the comfort of the ordinary world. Now, we haven't actually discussed who the main character of this film is yet. You kind of introduced everybody, but
Yeah, I don't think we know yet.
more than any other film that we've done, I was really trying to find the thread of who is definitively the main character. We hear Sarah's voiceover top and bottom, so that's like the clearest indication that Sarah is. So I would argue that each of our heroes plays heroic functions in this movie, and that some elements are more present for some heroes than others. So from a film executive point of view, if I were James Cameron, I'd say, oh, it's about Sarah Connor. Or I might say, oh, it's about this badass robot. But really, they all kind of play important parts in their hero's journey.
In my head, I see John Connor as the primary hero of the story in this case. In the first film, it was Sarah. She was the target of assassination by the Terminator. And the whole film was her fleeing the Terminator with the help of Kyle Reese. And in this film, it is John who is the target of assassination. And Sarah is a massive ally, just one hair short of being the hero. But I think she is reprising the role in this film to assist her son. That's where I land on it. But like you, it's a tough call to make, and in 30 minutes, I might change my mind.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I think it's Sarah. I think it's Sarah's journey from hopelessness to hope. And when I get to the ordeal, I'll kind of twist that. But we can both agree that it's hazy. It's not a clear, straightforward, obvious thing. Okay. So I'm going to give calls to adventure for several characters now that we've had that discussion. Arguably, the Terminator, T-800, Arnold, his call to adventure happens off-screen.
T-101?
So it is Cyberdyne Systems 101.
Model 101.
But as I did research, Cameron refers to him as T-800.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that might have been from the first Terminator movie, but I'm going to call him Arnold or the Terminator for the rest of the film, just as opposed to the T-1000 or the T-1K.
Yeah.
So Arnold's call to adventure happens off-screen before the movie starts when future John Connor sends the Terminator back in time to protect his present self. John's call to adventure arguably to me happens at the arcade, young John's call to adventure, when his buddy tells him, hey, a cop's looking for you.
Agreed.
And 30 seconds later, he's running for his life. That's not so much a call to adventure as a push out the door to adventure. Now, I inadvertently watched the special edition this time around. And having never seen it, there were so many scenes that I were like, wait, I don't remember that. And so many of the scenes change they change the context of the story. So in the special, but this will be a good discussion. So this is another indication that Sarah is the hero of this story. But in the special edition, while Sarah is in her drugged state, after she has that tussle with Dr. Silberman and she's, sedated by the orderlies, she has a dream visit from Kyle, played by Michael Biehn, who tells her, John is the target now, you have to protect him, the future is not set, there's no fate but what we make for ourselves. That is as much of a call to adventure as anyone has in this film, protect your son.
Yes.
And then she has this vision of the nuke dropping on LA that we see from the beginning of the movie with the burning playground and the mushroom cloud. She has this recurring nightmare. So in this scene, she has that vision too.
So what is that Kyle Reese comes to her in a dream and tells her the truth?
Yeah.
It's not like she has a dream, but it's just a dream. It obviously isn't something that's possible. It really is the events.
Yeah, and I will reference that scene in another part of the story, but yeah, she in some way knows that this is the truth now, and she acts on it.
So does this scene happen before she meets with Dr. Silberman and he says, I think you're telling me what I want to hear and I'm keeping you here in maximum security another 6 months?
Yes. It's the reason why she's so desperate. And I wonder if that's why they cut it or if they just cut it for time. But I just thought that was fascinating that that scene got cut. I wonder if there was something contractual with Michael Biehn. But he appears as we see him in the first film in the trench coat with the short hair. And he's like, kind of sweaty and disheveled.
Yeah. Well, he was in promotional material. That's the reason my wife wanted to see this movie, because she's had a crush on Michael Biehn since probably the first Terminator. I think that's the first movie any of us ever saw him in. But
yeah,
she saw Navy SEALs only because Michael Biehn was in it.
I do love me some Michael Biehn. All right, so at the risk of just simplifying it from 400 plot points, that's the call to adventure.
Okay. For those of us who didn't see the special edition, though, I think Sarah's call to adventure is after the fight at the Galleria with the two Terminators fighting over John, the police officers show Sarah's photo of the Terminator and the Terminator now and the Terminator from back in 1984 when he attacked the police station that she was being held safe, and says, "Your son is missing."
Yes.
And here's this guy again. So what is going on? And she plays catatonic and won't talk to them. But that's when she begins to orchestrate her escape.
Like I said, cutting that scene changes a lot. It changes a lot in this movie.
The next segment of the journey is Refusal of the Call. Confronted with fear of the unknown, the call to adventure is refused either directly by the hero or by external forces. Now, I didn't really see much of a refusal from John Connor.
Nope.
I mean, of course, he's forced to run for his life when the two Terminators attack in the Galleria. So that flight, I suppose, could be seen as a refusal, even though Arnold, he seems to be there to help him because he warns John, get down, before he starts shooting at the T-1000.
How does he warn him? How does he warn him?
Get down.
Yay! Don't waste these opportunities.
Get down. And then he uses his body to shield John when the T-1000 unloads his 9mm at him. So he's obviously there to protect him, and John has that realization later as well. I don't really see his flight. His fleeing on his motorcycle is just trying to get the hell out of danger's way.
Yeah.
And even when he's confronted with the truth of who this big guy is, he immediately buys into it and starts planning the next steps.
Yeah.
So he's kind of he's got his head on his shoulders, this kid.
Yeah.
And I didn't really see a refusal from Sarah during this meeting with the cops where she's pretending to be catatonic. I guess from the police's perspective, that is a refusal to cooperate. But when they turn their back, she sneaks a paperclip off of the documents on the table in front of her and hides it in her fist.
She pulls
and
a
that's
Hannibal
what she
Lecter.
uses to pick the locks of her restraints later. So no refusal from either one of these characters. Yeah. Did you see anything that we could call out at least? Or do we just jump into Mentor?
There's no refusal from within, but, there's the refusal from without, where an outside force or an antagonist shows up to prevent the acceptance of the call. And there's plenty of that.
Okay, so then Dr. Silberman, the whole mental hospital, restraining Sarah to her bed and refusing to let her transfer to minimum security so she can see her son and actually probably escape easier.
Yeah.
Okay, that's accepted.
And then for the Terminator, right off the bat, I mean, everything, the bikers at the biker bar are trying to prevent him from starting his adventure of protecting John. They're trying to prevent him from getting what he needs. So I think there's plenty of conflict preventing the heroes from embarking on their journey. It's just not from within. That would be my argument. And, in a film like this, we're really starting in media res, that the story is already propelled because this is a sequel. We know what's happening. The main characters are already in their situations. In a film, you just need conflict, even though it might not be super attached to the mythology of the journey. All those things show up to stop our heroes before they can really embark. That brings us to meeting with the mentor, or supernatural aid, the unexpected assistance that comes to one who has undertaken their proper adventure. I'm going to reference the special edition again. Sarah's visit from Kyle isn't just her call to adventure, it's supernatural aid. Kyle is dead.
Pretty much supernatural, yeah.
Is supernatural, right? And he gives her information that she wouldn't have otherwise, that the Terminator is coming for John this time, and that the future isn't set, that she can change things. So much of the other cool mentor stuff in this movie happens throughout as John is teaching the Terminator how to be more human. I loved that stuff.
Yes.
And you could say that Arnold is supernatural aid for John. He's clearly a weapon. You know, he's not a lightsaber, but he's a weapon to protect John, and he's superhuman. So he might not be supernatural because he's technological, but he's superhuman, and he is aiding John.
Agreed.
And then T-1000 gets a mentor moment.
What?
He goes to John's foster home, and he gets information from the foster parents, including his special weapon, which is the photograph, which allows him to identify John on sight.
I'm surprised that he didn't already have that file. The Terminator knows what John looks like. Why doesn't the T-1000? Later in the film, Arnold says to John, the T-1000 has the same files I do. So why didn't...
There are some definite, not plot holes, but sort of logic problems in this movie upon closer watch, and most of them revolve around the T-1000. Like, we first meet him, he kills a cop, and he doesn't copy himself to look like the cop, even though that would be a big advantage to him in interacting with other cops. But because we've just met him, maybe it would be confusing to the audience to not see more of Robert Patrick. But like, there's a couple things throughout where...
We see all of Robert Patrick.
Yeah, that's right. Muscular back and sleek haircut. Anyway.
All right, stop simping for Robert Patrick. Jesus.
Anyway, little details aside, that's what I saw as meeting with the mentor.
Yeah, there's another moment where the Terminator is about to shoot someone, and John knocks his arm away and says, "No, you can't go around killing people."
Yes.
And the Terminator says, "Why?" "Because you just can't, all right? Trust me on this." And then throughout the film, there's other moments where that theme comes up.
Yes,
of the Terminator learning the value of human life.
I did say that earlier, but that's okay.
You did?
Yeah, I said the coolest mentor stuff happens throughout the movie as John teaches the Terminator how to be more human. That's what I was...
How to be more human, but
trying to cover.
Not that you can't kill other people. Humans kill other people all the time. In fact, the Terminator says it's in your nature to destroy each other. Being more human does not mean not killing other humans.
Okay, you're right. I was trying to
Darn
include
right, I'm right.
all... Lovely.
You're trying to what?
What my point was is that John becomes a mentor to the Terminator. The mentor teaches you how to operate in the special world. So you're certainly right. I didn't specifically say teaching him not to kill people. And you're right. That's not how to be more human, which was what I said. But my point was John becomes a mentor to the Terminator, teaching him how to operate in the special world. For the Terminator, present day is the special world.
Chill out, dickwad.
Final segment of Act 1 is crossing the first threshold, where the hero must pass a barrier to enter the special world. This crossing represents the hero's commitment to taking on the adventure. We didn't talk about the motorcycle and tow truck chase through
the big semi cab
through the what is actually called Bull Creek. It is a storm drain.
It's part of the LA River system.
So we didn't talk about that at all. I don't know if that's because this is the crossing of the first threshold for you. Is John and the Terminator linking up and escaping the T-1000 together for the first time?
I mean, some of these I counted in tests. This is an action movie, and as we experienced, I think it was in Die Hard, like action sequence, action sequence, action sequence. And some of these are early tests. I mean, I guess you could also call that an expression of refusal as the T-1000 is trying to prevent John's escape. But I mean, that's the whole movie, essentially, is him tracking him down.
Right. I had this sequence as part of John's call to adventure.
I'll buy that. I'm watching this and I'm having GTA flashbacks of, driving off bridges and careening down, concrete. Much of this movie, I was having Grand Theft Auto flashbacks. I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah. So after that really cool action sequence. John Connor and the T-800, I guess,
Cyberdyne Systems 101.
have a discussion about who he is and why he's there. He's there to protect John. And there's this great scene where John realizes that the Terminator must follow his instructions.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's the whole standing on one leg thing while the two dudes come over and try to help him out.
Yeah.
But anyway, he orders the Terminator to help him break his mother out of Pescadero Mental Hospital. That's what I saw as John's
interesting
crossing of the first threshold, because this is now him taking direct action.
Yeah.
Rather than just fleeing this cop who's relentlessly chasing him, trying to kill him, and he has no idea why.
Yeah, yeah. And he's also taking command in his future role as a military leader. He's taking command of the soldiers and laying down. That's a really good point. I like that.
Correct.
I had that in test, but I really like that as crossing of the threshold for John. Well done.
Sarah's crossing of the first threshold, I think, is her escape attempt. She picks the lock on her restraints and breaks out of her room and starts making her way through the hallways of the hospital. This is her now after she has received the call to adventure from Kyle Reese in the special edition, or from those of us who did not see the special edition and only saw the cops arrive at the hospital and show her pictures of the Terminator and telling her that her son has disappeared. Now she's breaking out of the hospital so that she can go help him. This is her crossing of the first threshold.
I saw a different moment for her. Maybe it is influenced by my inclusion of the scene with Kyle. The scene I had for her crossing of the threshold is when she stops pretending she's not delusional anymore, when she stops trying to tell Silberman what he wants to hear. And he says, "You have to let me see my son. He's in great danger." And then Silberman says, "Well, I'm going to tell the review board you have to be here another 6 months." And she leaps across the table to attack him.
Wow.
She's been playing it cool, hoping to get to see John, or maybe just to escape. And this is her first overt act. She is no longer trying to play along. She is attacking him, and this is her first overt act of going to protect her son. So that's what I saw as her crossing of the threshold.
I disagree, because that's spirited activity on her side is consistent with the way she has behaved while at the hospital. Because we see that video of her screaming at Silberman saying,
yeah, that's a great performance by Linda Hamilton.
On August 29th,
if you're not wearing a million sunscreen,
if you're not wearing 1 million sunblock, you're going to have a really bad day. Get it?
All right, fair enough.
It's not, she doesn't think that she's going to escape at that moment. She's attacking Silberman in rage because she's not being allowed to see her son.
I'll buy that. I did have a one for Arnold. It's the moment in the passageway behind the stores in the Galleria. In that great slow-mo moment, he drops his box of roses and reveals the shotgun. He grabs John, and then he uses his body to shield John. This is his first contact moment where he's actively protecting John. Up until this moment, he's trying to find John. Now he's got him, and he's actively protecting him and facing off with T-1000.
That concludes Act 1. I think it's time for some side quests at the Campbell Cafe to see what we've been up to since our last recording date. Jeffrey, welcome to the cozy side quest at the Campbell Cafe. What have you been doing since our last recording to follow your bliss?
I treated myself to a Martin Scorsese film festival.
Oh, nice.
I watched Wolf of Wall Street, which I had not seen.
So good. Oh, really?
Yeah.
That movie is quite a spectacle the first time you see it.
I enjoyed it very much. It made me laugh. Leonardo DiCaprio is incredible. He is all over the place. Jonah Hill, I mean, the performances are awesome.
Across the board.
Yeah, everybody is great. It's just outrageous. And then I watched The Departed because I wanted to see...
It took me a second. I was like, the what?
I had seen this before, but it was even better this time. I loved seeing Will Hunting grow up and become a dirty cop. You didn't see that coming. DiCaprio great again. Jack Nicholson chewing on the scenery. And so it was a great day. I did a double feature. And 2 Scorsese movies in one day. That's a whole day, man.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun. I'm really glad I did that. And then I listened to the audiobook of Project Hail Mary, the third novel by Andy Weir. I enjoyed it every bit as much as The Martian. I expected him never to be able to beat The Martian, but I enjoyed this more. It's a smart, wise-ass astronaut engineer solving problems, which is what I loved about The Martian. But it has an even more sci-fi bent that made it so much fun and so much more emotional. I really loved it.
Okay.
So I highly recommend when you finish Artemis, just go straight into Project Hail Mary. I liked it better than Artemis. I enjoyed Artemis, but this was a home run to me. Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. How did you spend your bliss?
Well, you just segued into Artemis for me. That is what I did. I just finished Artemis about 10 hours ago.
Oh, wow.
Finished it last night. I wanted to be able to talk about it in its entirety today, so I stayed up maybe a little later than I should have to finish it, but I only had less than 100 pages to go, so I just blasted through the rest of it last night. And the fact that I was able to read 100 pages in a day is really rare for me. I'm a very slow reader, but Artemis, the pages just fly by. I agree with you. It is a fun sci-fi novel. It is a lunar heist caper. The protagonist is, just as in The Martian, a plucky, smart-ass, too smart for their own good character who is living on the lunar colony called Artemis and gets involved in a struggle for control of the colony. What I did not like about the book, what disappointed me, was the over-sexualization of the protagonist purely because they were a female. She's characterized as promiscuous. It seems that every time there's another male character on the page, there is either sexual tension or there is some comment about her and somebody having sex with her or threatening, or at one point during the heist, she's trying to gather information, so to do so, she dresses as a prostitute. If this was a male character, there would have been that would not have happened at all. I was really disappointed that just because the character was female, that scene happened. There could have been a completely different way for her to obtain that information, and there was more. It seemed like every time we're reminded that the character is female, it's because there's some kind of a sexual charge going on the page. Oh, there's a character who, a friend of hers, who's a computer whiz and an engineering whiz, and he's got this new invention that he wants her to test out. Will you test this thing out for me? It's a washable condom. Like, hey, you're promiscuous. The next time you shtup somebody, you test out this
Reusable
condom and then see if, like, what the. There couldn't have been some other thing that this guy came up with.
Yeah.
So it was stuff like that.
So maybe he was just every really other horny when he wrote it.
It was every other page, man, and I was like, come on, do better than this. It would have been such a better book without all that crap in it.
Yeah.
You can have a female protagonist. That's fine. That's great.
Yeah.
But man, this book is why women cringe when a male writes a female protagonist. But I was so disappointed. Otherwise, I enjoyed the book.
I blame Robert Heinlein for that. He really pioneered the over-sexualization of women in sci-fi. I don't know if he pioneered it, but he definitely cemented the legacy. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's me.
Awesome.
Are you ready to dip into Act 2?
Act 2 of the hero's journey begins with tests, allies, enemies, aka the road of trials. Now in the special world, our hero makes allies, meets enemies, and must pass a series of tests to prove his worthiness. Allies. Okay, some of these we've met, some of these we haven't met yet. Obviously, we've got the Terminator, the T-800, the Cyberdyne Systems 101, Arnold. We got John, you're saying he's the protagonist, so I guess he's the protagonist. Then we've got Sarah, and I listed Enrique, Sarah's mercenary wartime buddy who owes her a favor and has lots of weapons. Enemies, obviously the T-1K is a big baddie. And then we've got Dr. Silberman, Mr. Licky, and the other orderlies.
Ew.
And then, of course, the cops become enemies, or at the very least, obstacles.
At least adversaries. They're not the antagonist.
Yeah. They're not driving they're tools, essentially, to stand against our heroes. And then the shapeshifters are many. I mean, the T-1000 is literally a shapeshifter, but there's no doubt he's a bad guy. So I just had to plug it. He's literally a shapeshifter. The Terminators. So one of the things I love and hate about trailers is if you had never seen a trailer for this movie, if you had no idea what was going on, the first 20 minutes of the movie, both Terminators are tracking down John, and we know Arnold was a bad guy in the first movie. And then in that hallway, he protects them. Like, if you knew nothing about this movie except the first movie, that might be a really exciting turning point. But of course, you would never get to the theater with that ignorance. So in that way, both Terminators are shapeshifters because we're not sure who the hero or the villain is until it goes down. And then I put Miles Dyson as a shapeshifter because when he starts out, he is the reason why everything goes to hell. And then they persuade him to be on their side. That's kind of the cast as I saw it. Did I miss anybody from your perspective? Who'd I miss?
Nobody. I was saying, yep, that's the cast, not yep,
Got
I
it.
missed somebody.
Zoom lag. All right, so tests. Oh boy. I had the T-1000's deception as a test. John insists on calling his foster parents, and T-1000 has laid a trap for him. He's killed and is impersonating John's foster mom. But John senses something's wrong, and the Terminator confirms it by tricking foster mom / T-1000 into giving the wrong dog name. So the two of them together pass this test of being tricked. The T-1000 is trying to draw him back home. And then you had this as a crossing of the threshold. I had it as a test with John testing the boundaries of his relationship with the Terminator. That whole scene where he makes him stand on one leg and tells him not to kill anyone. I like it better as a crossing of the threshold, so I will concede.
Okay. Yeah, John taking command of the Terminator.
Yeah. I like in the bigger arc of John going into the future, that really is a threshold crossing, not just in this movie, but in the whole timeline of the Terminator. This is like the first moment where he becomes a military leader.
Yeah, within the mythology of the franchise as a whole.
That's a better way to put it. I really like that. I really like how you identified that. Okay, I have a bajillion bullet points here, but for the sake of brevity, I've got breaking Sarah out of Pescadero as a giant long test.
Yep.
And culminating with she finally gets past everybody and she's being chased by orderlies and the T-1000. She finally gets to the elevator, and then we have this slow motion sequence where she sees Arnold and just breaks. She's
Panics.
Finally going to escape, and it's over. This is the PTSD moment where the bad guy who hunted her has reappeared, and it has to be a nightmare because she killed it. She destroyed it. Mm-hmm. But here it is in the living flesh, and we get that great special effects scene of the T-1000 walking through the bars.
And Silberman realizing that she was telling the truth all the time.
And then there's that comic thing where you hear a clink, and you think, oh, something stopped him, and it's just the gun, right? He has to rotate his wrist to get the gun through.
It's little moments like that elevate this film.
So then there's the great moment where the Terminator liberates Sarah Connor by kicking everyone's butt. And of course, he has this great line, "Come with me if you want to live."
Which is a callback to the first film.
Okay, so we don't have to go beat by beat here, but they barely get away. And then after this scene, there's a scene where they're in the car driving away, and they're fully using rear projection. This movie won an Oscar for visual effects, but they're using rear project like 1960s technology.
Yes, yeah, it's like right out of Psycho. There's something I want to call out that happens during this scene, the scene where they're driving away in the stolen police car and the T-1000 is chasing after them. Sarah is continuously shooting the T-1000, and John is reloading.
Yes.
Very effectively. So
Yeah.
we are again seeing that John has been, we haven't seen why he can do this,
Yeah.
but it's referenced when John tells the Terminator that he and his mother spent a bunch of time in Nicaragua and bouncing from boyfriend to boyfriend. She would always date guys who were, ex-military or something who could teach John military skills. And so this is John exercising those skills during the scene. So another reason this is a past test.
Yes. She's prepared him for this moment, and he rises to the occasion as best a 10-year-old can. Now that they're away from the immediate threat, Sarah and John embrace, and then she immediately berates him for coming to rescue her. I can take care of myself. You shouldn't have risked yourself.
You're too important.
Yeah, this 10-year-old who just wanted to see his mom is devastated. And then we get a moment that pays off later when the Terminator says, "What's wrong with your eyes?" Final test. Can Sarah trust the Terminator? They stop at a garage, and Arnold sews up Sarah's wounds, and Sarah pulls slugs out of Arnold's body. I loved that flip-flop, especially given their backstory. John wants to reset the Terminator's CPU so he can learn how to be more human, so he can pass as human.
That is from the special edition.
Yes, it is.
In the theatrical release, which is the one I watched, he just asks the Terminator if he can learn to be more human, and the Terminator confirms that he is a learning computer and will pick up more human traits.
Oh, so they don't peel back his dome and remove the chip?
No, that's special edition stuff.
I'll just put this in there because it doesn't change the plot, but it's a nice moment. So Sarah helps him peel back his head and remove the chip. And then she has this moment when John turns his back. She grabs a sledgehammer and she is going to crush and destroy the chip. And John stops her and says, "We need him. You can't do that." And then she says, "No, you don't understand what it's like to try and kill one of these things." And John says to her, "If you want everybody to accept me as a military leader, then maybe it's time you did too."
Oh, what a great moment. It's too bad they cut that.
And Eddie Furlong's performance in that moment is really great. And so is Sarah's. You just see her as like, oh, she's so messed up from this. And now her son is stopping her. Sarah, she's got issues, man. Talk about PTSD.
Well, can you blame her?
No, and she smokes a lot. I wonder, you know how Spielberg went back and swapped the walkie-talkies for the guns in E.T.? I wonder what would happen if filmmakers went back and swapped smoking for vaping. They would be. It's just
for
not as
eating
cool.
ice cream bars.
Yeah, they're holding ice cream bars. Okay, and then I still have this in tests. There's great road trip mentor stuff. The next morning, they leave the garage. Arnold hotwires a wood-paneled station wagon, and John shows him, hey, the keys are tucked above the visor. You don't have to do everything the hard way.
Yeah.
And they're driving, and John teaches Arnold how to communicate more like a human. And we have that hilarious sequence where he learns how to say, chill out, dickwad, and hasta la vista, baby.
No problemo.
And then the Woody overheats, so they stop at a gas station, and they're getting food. And John teaches Arnold how to smile. And he has this... I don't know if that whole thing is... That's in the theatrical release, right?
No.
No? Okay. Briefly. This doesn't affect the plot, but it does pay off later when he gets the gun and smiles. But he tries to teach Arnold how to smile, and smile, he can't do it. He's trying to form his lips, and it's really funny. And then John sees a guy smiling and goes, hey, like that. And we see Arnold's HUD wireframe the mouth and analyze the smile. And then he does this horrible fake smile. And John's like, all right, we'll just skip this part.
Yeah, that is not in the release that most viewers see.
So, and then just an important plot point. Sarah demands to know who's responsible for building Skynet. And Arnold tells her it's Miles Bennett Dyson, director of special projects at Cyberdyne. He's going to create a special processor that becomes the mainstay of military technology and leads to the self-aware computer network that eventually becomes Skynet and kills 3 billion people with nukes.
In a panic, they try to pull the plug.
That's what I see as end of tests.
Yeah. I saw that scene as the beginning of the approach to the inmost cave, where the hero reaches the edge of a dangerous place where the object of his quest is hidden. The revelation of who Miles Dyson is what sets specifically Sarah after him.
Yes.
Which leads to what will become the ordeal, etc. I saw this scene as the approach to the inmost cave. I also liked the moment of John watching two children play with toy guns, and he asks the Terminator, "We're not going to make it, are we? People, I mean." And the Terminator says, "It is in your nature to destroy yourselves."
Yeah.
So this is him telling John, this is what humans do. You're violent. You're a violent species.
Easy for him to say.
Then there's the arrival at Enrique's desert compound.
This is one of those things where you drive by it on the 15 and it's like off the side of the road on the way to Las Vegas and you're like, who lived there in the middle, like this beat up trailer that's clearly been abandoned. Nope, that's Enrique's house.
Classic approach to the inmost cave moment where the hero is armed for battle.
Holy crap, did they get armed for battle?
Goodness, the Terminator drags this dirt-covered platform across the ground to reveal an underground weapons arsenal.
Yeah.
And John says, "Say what you want about my mother, but at least she plans ahead." I mean, there's just, you could, a platoon could be armed with what's in this thing. There's this great moment, you alluded to it earlier, where the Terminator picks up a minigun and grins at John, and John says, "That's definitely you."
Yeah.
What a great moment.
And quick plug for Internet Movie Firearms Database.
Ah, yeah.
The page for this movie is scroll, 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 because someone took the time to identify every weapon they pick up and every weapon they use. And I learned so much about firearms from that.
That's a great resource.
Yeah, it really is.
Continuing with Approach to the Inmost Cave, there's also the moment where, and this is more John teaching the Terminator to be more human. There's the teaching him how to high five.
Yes.
This follows the question of the Terminator asking John finally, why do humans cry? And John can't really explain it.
Nothing's wrong, but it hurts anyway. Yeah.
So not a real elegant explanation, and the Terminator doesn't understand it at all.
Yeah, it's a terrible explanation of why we cry.
Yeah.
It's not true. It's bad.
But Sarah is watching this interaction between the Terminator and her son, and there's this voiceover of her realizing that the Terminator is going to be the best father figure to John that there will ever be. Yeah. He'll never come home drunk and beat him. Mm-hmm. He'll never abandon him. He will always stay with John. So in an insane world, he's the sanest choice. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, wow.
She's come a long way in her trust of the Terminator.
Then she has a dream about Judgment Day, and then she wakes up, and she has carved No Fate into the picnic table with her knife.
What a terrible guest. Now you're defacing Enrique's property. Really nice, Sarah.
After this nightmare, she immediately gets up, arms herself, jumps in the Griswold mobile, and takes off after Miles Dyson.
Yep.
And John and the Terminator are now sitting there. They have discovered this carving. And John repeats, and this is the first time we've heard it, if you're watching the theatrical cut, the future's not set. There's no fate but what we make for ourselves. And this is John realizing what the no fate carving means, and he and the Terminator together realizes that she is going after Miles Dyson. And so they chase after her.
No fate but what we make.
And so this sequence of them driving after Sarah, I see as the end of the Approach to the Inmost Cave.
100% agree.
Oh my gosh, I am shocked.
Really? You thought I would identify a different part, or just because we've been a little out of sync in Act 1?
No, I thought you were going to go with a different ordeal, but I think we've got the same ordeal then, which is your segment.
Ordeal. Our hero faces the ultimate test, often risking death to overcome their worst fear, sometimes actually appearing to die. I just have to flag here, the running time for the extended edition is about 20 minutes longer, but I think we have ourselves here a classic delayed crisis.
Yeah.
The full extended version is about 2.5 hours, and the ordeal here occurs right around an hour and a half, which is 3/5 through the runtime. So it's not the tent pole. It's much later.
Correct. It's the same way in the theatrical edition. This scene is not the middle of the film.
So to me, the ordeal is the assault on Dyson.
Agreed.
So Dyson is at his computer working, and his son is driving his RC car around the house. And we get a great, he can't just drive the RC car. James Cameron has to have a tracking shot, preceding the RC car coming down the hallway. Meanwhile, Sarah is in their yard with an enormous rifle, and the red dot drifts up Dyson's back to his head. And just as she's about to squeeze the trigger, Dyson's son's RC car hits him in the foot, and he bends over, and she fires, and the shot hits the computer screen, and so she misses him. And then she just starts peppering the room with bullets. She is shooting everything off the desk, the walls, the computer, glass is flying, and Dyson is just terrified, huddling behind the desk, and he's yelling for his wife to take their kids. In the extended version, there are 2 kids. In the theatrical edition, they cut out one of the kids. So he's like, go. So he's hiding there behind the desk, just shaking, when Sarah approaches and comes into the house with a pistol. And she fires and wings him in the shoulder, and he falls. And then his son, jumps on him to protect him. Mm-hmm. And Sarah's, get away. And she has the gun in his face, and she is losing her grip.
Yeah.
She wants to kill him so bad. She knows what he'll create if she doesn't pull this trigger.
I'm not going to let you do it. I'm not going to let you do it, she says.
But then Dyson starts to sob, and Sarah's humanity comes out. She can't pull the trigger, and she has this moment where she holds out her hand and shushes him and backs away. And I'm thinking, if I'm Dyson and her family, I'm like, oh my God, this psycho with a gun. Yeah. It's terrifying.
Yeah.
This is a turning point for Sarah, because all of John's moral teaching, her and the Terminator, are coming home to roost, and she realizes this is a human. She can't pull the trigger.
Yeah.
I think if she'd escaped from Pescadero and knew where he was, she'd have blasted him, but John has changed her. Finally, the Terminator and John arrive, and the Terminator rushes to tend to Dyson's wounds. A total 180 it's a Terminator, but he's, healing Dyson, essentially. John goes to console his distraught mother, and she says, you came here to stop me. She says, I love you, for the first time in the movie. And just A+ to Linda Hamilton, right? Linda Hamilton never falls into the trope of, I'm a changed person now. She is still absolutely as traumatized as she was before, but she just has this moment of humanity with her son. And it's great. And then she goes right back to being a bitter psycho. It's awesome. I think my next 2 bullet points probably fit better in reward. So I'm going to call the end of the violence there the end of ordeal.
The next segment is the ultimate Boon. Having faced his worst fear, the hero seizes the object of his quest. The object of the quest here, the treasure, is the stopping of Judgment Day. Mm-hmm. The nuclear holocaust that annihilates humanity. And in this scene in Miles Dyson's home, Uncle Bob, or the Terminator, takes a knife and carves his arm and rips the flesh off of it to expose
like a glove.
The metal skin. And it sounds like he rips off a rubber cleaning glove.
Good.
And exposes this metal arm. And you see in a very similar shot when we first see Miles Dyson earlier in the film, when he's looking at the first Terminator arm that's in the vault. We see that image, that composition, that's the word I'm thinking of. We see that camera composition again of the arm in the foreground and Miles Dyson in the background, and he sees this thing and he goes, oh my God, it's real.
Yeah.
And then Uncle Bob tells Miles Dyson the history of things to come. And Dyson agrees to stop working on the new processor that will become Skynet, and agrees to destroy all of his work at Cyberdyne.
Yes.
And then I think the end of the sequence is a camera shot moving along the highway, and Sarah, in voiceover, says, "The future, always so clear to me, had become a black highway at night. We were in uncharted territory now, making up history as we went along." And I saw that as the end of the reward.
Yeah, I agree. That leads us to the end of Act 2. Dan, let's take a break, move to the Vogler Lounge, and have ourselves a themed beverage.
All right, I guess we need to look into the camera as much as possible for this, because if you're seeing this, this is the first time we've recorded the beverage break for our video content, our bonus video content for Patreon subscribers. So, sort of humorous, I guess. Something happened last beverage break for Robin Hood that one Patreon subscriber says, "Gee, I wish we could have seen that on video."
That's right. You had
And that Levi said that, and so we thought, well, why don't we record the beverage break on video, and then we just add that to the video content. So here we are with the beverage break here at the Vogler Lounge, which the illusion is ruined because you're seeing Jeff in his office and me in my office, but just pretend through the magic of your imagination.
That's right.
If you're only hearing this, you know that we are still at the actual Vogler Lounge.
That's right.
Jeffrey.
Yep.
What did the bartendernator make for you?
I thought this would be so easy. I thought there was going to be an apocalyptic ale or something that just obvious, but I tried really hard. I found one bottle that qualified. And it's by Prairie Artisan Ales in Oklahoma.
Where did you find that?
It's called Bomb. I don't think you can see it.
It's washed out. Can't see the label.
Yeah, sorry. And I can't read it without my other glasses, but it is
I'm glad you're so prepared for this.
Well, sometimes I forget that my eyes are slowly rotting in my skull. Hold on.
What a great image that is.
This is an imperial stout aged on coffee, cacao nibs, vanilla beans, and chili peppers.
That sounds fantastic.
I am not a chili beer fan, but I'm going to try this. The ABV on this 12-ounce bottle was $10.82. It is 12% ABV. So
good thing it's only 12 ounces.
Good night. Here we go.
Where did you find this?
Bevmo.
Really? I don't know that I've ever seen it at Bevmo.
It was a very quiet opening. That doesn't bode well. All right, here we go.
That was a flaccid pop.
I am drinking it in my Terminator 2 Father's Day.
You have a Terminator 2 Father's Day glass?
No, it just says Father's Day, but it was the closest thing I could get to a themed glass because it's not Judgment Day, it's Father's Day. All right, here we go.
I guess the term we've already established that the Terminator is the father figure for John in this film.
This beer is completely opaque. It is motor oil. Even the head is opaque. It's a thin head. There aren't a lot of bubbles. It is definitely not nitro. Here we go. It's not a very fragrant nose. I smell like molasses or honey.
Okay.
I don't get chocolate. I think I get a little hint of the chili pepper. I don't smell coffee. I don't smell chocolate or vanilla or anything. So hopefully that'll be in the flavor. Palate cleansing drink of water. I wolfed down a snack before we got back on because I don't want this to absolutely kick my butt. Here we go. Okay. It's sweet. I'm gonna take another sip here. Hold on. It's very complex. This
sweet like syrup sweet, or what categorize the sweet if you can?
Yeah, it's like that molassesy kind of heavy sweetness.
Yeah.
But I don't get chocolate, but I get right at the end. I get intense coffee, but like coffee grounds, like the end of the pot where you take a sip and like
just super bitter.
Yeah, and I barely present is the chili pepper, which I like because I'm not a fan of spicy beers. It's very complex. There's no way I could drink 2 of these ever.
Uh-huh.
I wish it were twice as cold. This is weird. I'll have to give you another review when I'm halfway through it because I have a feeling after half of it, it'll taste much better. But Prairie Artisan Ale's bomb. I don't know that I would pay $10.82 for this beer.
But a good experiment, though.
Yeah, bomb, as in the thing that killed 3 billion people. All right, Dan.
All right.
What are you enjoying?
Well, my other circle of close friends that does not include you, we have always clung to John Connor's pronunciation of Nicaragua. My wife and I were talking about it, and she said, well, maybe there's like a beer from Nicaragua you can get, and I looked, I couldn't find any, at least not in my area. And so she did a quick Google on cocktails, and she found a cocktail that in, I think, 2016 or 17 was entered into a competition and was then subsequently named the national cocktail of Nicaragua.
Wow.
And it is called, I'm gonna mispronounce this as well.
You're no John Connor.
I'm pretty sure. I am definitely not as skilled as John Connor. Called El Macua, M-A-C-U-A, and the A has a little accent mark on it.
Okay.
Macua, which means the emphasis is on that second syllable. So El Macua. It is 2 parts white rum, 2 parts guava juice, a part lemon juice. There are some recipes that include a part orange juice. Some recipes also say sugar to taste or a part simple syrup. And you can garnish with an orange slice or a candied cherry.
Okay.
Mix it all in a shaker with ice and then pour it into a Collins glass with ice. So here's what mine looks
With
like.
a dried candied orange slice. That is beautiful.
It's a blood orange slice. It's not dried or candied.
Oh, it's not
a blood orange.
From here, it looks like one of those candied, dried things you get. Wow, that's
a blood orange, friend.
that is beautiful.
So the juice, the guava juice, yeah, it looks great. The guava juice that I found, I could not find pure guava juice. And Naked, the company Naked that makes juice, they make juice blends. So this has guava juice, I think a little bit of pineapple juice, orange juice, lime. There's some other stuff in this. So this is not a true El Macua. It is this is my version of it, I suppose. So I'm assuming it's going to be very fruity on the nose. Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's all it is a variety of fruit juices plus the white rum. Ooh, yeah, that smells great. Smells great. Tasting, dangerous. I don't taste the rum at all. I don't drink white rum that much, so I don't know compared to dark rum or normal rum or whatever other rum is called. I don't know what the flavor is supposed to be. Like what makes white rum white? Is it just a different barrel aging process, or is it a different? I know rum is made from sugar cane,
right.
So is white rum? I don't know. I should have done some research on that, and I totally forgot. So
It's a beautiful cocktail. For those of you who can't see,
yeah, it's kind of I keep hitting the microphone with the glass. So these folks who are seeing the video for the first time ever, you can see what it looks like. But audio only folks, this is maybe the color of a cantaloupe. It's an orangey, kind of a muddy orangey color. It's opaque, like yours was. I think if I had used true guava juice, maybe it wouldn't be. I don't know. Is guava juice opaque? I don't know. Anyway, this is super tasty. But the 2 parts rum, I think that's what did I use? I used 3 ounces. So this will be a nice little cocktail as we continue the Terminator. Cheers to those of you on video if you're having a drink with us.
Yeah, have a beverage.
Cheers also to the audio folks. I'm not meaning to draw a line in the sand here. But anyway, thanks for joining us, and enjoy the rest of the video or Act 3.
Cheers. If I drink all this, it will be a Terminator Dark Fate.
Good callback. That's also a great movie.
Act 3 begins with the road back. The hero is pursued by the vengeful forces he disturbed when he seized the object of his quest. With Dyson's help, our heroes get into Cyberdyne. And as they're overcoming the guard behind the reception counter...
Poor Gibbons.
Poor Gibbons. I love that John has this very quick shot of him like pulling out the first strap of duct tape. And it is such a great little button on that scene. The sound, that duct tape sound. And the look on John's face, almost like this is going to be fun. So they head to the vault, but when Dyson swipes his card to get the keys out, it doesn't work because another guard has found the duct tape guard and set off the alarm. So, using his ATM robbing machine, which we established earlier, John goes to work on the box holding the vault keys while Dyson and Sarah go to the lab to destroy his work and take care of the processor. Meanwhile, the very sweaty security guard who found Gibbons' duct tape calls the cops and tells them that the guy from the mall is here and to send, quote, everything they've got in the area. This is the summoning of the vengeful forces. Our heroes can't get into the lab, so Arnold uses his pistol grip grenade launcher. I have a little more detail in the tidbits from the Internet Firearms database.
Awesome.
And blows the door completely out. And then the fire retardant gas comes down, so they have to put on breathing apparatuses to get through the chemicals. Meanwhile, the T-1000 shows up at Dyson's house, and he discovers the wreckage. And as he's sort of walking through the house, he hears on the police radio something about Sarah Connor and where she is. So now he's got coordinates. Sarah and Dyson start piling Dyson's work into a big heap while Arnold is bashing computers with a fire axe. Again.
Oh, wow. That is...
Oh, is that not in the...
That is extended edition stuff. None of this is in the theatrical release.
All right. Well...
but go on with it.
Yeah.
I'm interested to hear it. I want to hear it.
So Arnold, Terminator, not a creature of subtlety, is just like... one after another smashing computers with a fire axe, and Dyson comes up and is like, "Hey, can I borrow that?" And Terminator looks at him and hands it to him, and Dyson walks over to his processor, that sort of Lego Tinker Toy cube that you haven't seen it.
Yeah, we don't
on his
see any of
desk,
this.
on his desk with the scene from his wife that was cut. He has this model of a processor, and it looks like a rectangular solid that you would have made out of black Tinker Toys. Well, now we see the giant version of that, and he says, "I've worked on this for years," and then smashes it with an axe. I can see why they cut it, because it's not crucial, but it's nice to see Dyson destroying the thing that leads to the thing that's the thing.
Yeah.
Cops descend on Nakatomi Plaza Jr. We got cop cars, we got SWAT, we got a helicopter. The Terminator and his crew have earned a 4-star wanted level. So when the helicopter comes, man, that's a Grand Theft Auto reference for those of you who don't know what the hell I'm talking about. So John finally gets the pin to the key box.
Why did that tickle me so well?
I've killed Dan.
Oh,
maybe the
that was
guava
good.
juice. Maybe the.
No, I think I'm excited. Because I love the game and I'm glad you're playing it with me now. And so for you to make GTA references in our podcast, that's just like, it's the melding of all the perfect elements of my life together. Okay, continue. Sorry to interrupt.
I mean, this game is chases through the streets of Los Angeles.
And, wait.
Sorry, yes.
The game or the movie?
This movie is chases through the streets of Los Angeles, blowing stuff up, ramming cars, and then a caper, a heist to steal something. So anyway, cops descend. John finally gets the pin to the key box, obtains the vault keys. Meanwhile, and I don't think this is in the theatrical version, but maybe it is, Terminator and company have set plastic explosives on these giant yellow barrels of chemicals.
That is in the theatrical cut. There's no piling of things. It's like these are giant bombs.
Yeah,
where did they're just going to destroy the building.
But when did they haul giant barrels of explosives into the building? That doesn't happen.
That is in the Ultimate Edition, which you did not see. You saw the extended edition. There's a second director's cut.
Got it. This is the continuity director's cut. So
yeah, the guy from the Piranha 2, The Spawning, came back and he broke into the studio, made his own cut of Terminator 2, and he's the one who included the yellow barrels.
So they're getting ready to blow the whole place up because we haven't had enough explosions yet. The Terminator hands Dyson the remote just as John runs in with the keys, and then he warns them about the cops. And Sarah says, "How many?" And John replies, "All of them, I think."
I have that dialogue written in my notes too.
I love it.
I loved it.
It's such
all of them, I think.
It's such a off the cuff. Like he's not being clever. He's just like all of them. I don't know. So the Terminator takes the chainsaw grip minigun, walks to the window of the building, and starts blowing up cop cars, mowing down saplings that have recently been planted, and glass is flying. But thanks to his super cyber aim, nobody gets killed.
Yeah, I love. We're glossing over that when he says, "I'm going to go take care of this problem." John says, "Wait, don't kill anybody," and he says, "Trust me."
Wait, what does he say? Wait, what does he say?
He says, "Trust me." And then he goes.
But who says that line though? Is it John who says that?
No, it's the other guy.
Okay.
But anyway, this is an important scene for the Terminator.
Yes.
Because he demolishes the parking lot. But when he's done, his minigun runs out of ammo. He's fired grenades from his handheld grenade launcher, blowing up cop cars. And then you see, once the dust has settled, so to speak, we see his HUD view again, and it reads out human casualties 0.0. That 0.0 is even important because it means he didn't even cause an injury.
Wow. Yeah.
Bad ass.
Meanwhile, John and Dyson enter the vault and obtain the chip in the Terminator hand. And I love this moment because Dyson's about to tell him how he can get the Terminator hand out of the case, and he just smashes it on the floor, breaks the glass, picks it up. Dyson's like, oh, okay, well, that works too. The Terminator comes back from having mowed down all the cop cars to evacuate them, but SWAT enters, and Dyson and Sarah are trapped in the office. And SWAT opens fire, and Dyson just gets riddled with bullets. He is a rag doll in the wind. So he falls, but he's still got his grip on the remote. He didn't drop the remote. Sarah dives behind a computer cabinet, and she fires a shot as a distraction. She's trying to escape, but they're pinned down. And enter Dean Norris as the SWAT guy.
Yes.
Who you can recognize him even through that face mask.
Well, it was his voice. I didn't recognize him through the face mask.
Oh, you didn't?
It was his voice that I recognized.
Oh. Yeah, I saw his face, and I'm like, that's Dean Norris. Second appearance of Dean Norris on the podcast, because he was in the Verhoeven movie we did with the big aliens.
Starship Troopers.
Yeah, he's in Starship Troopers. Wow.
This is why you show up to rehearsal, Jeff. God.
Hey, the beverage, the 12%.
Save it. You had a baby sip. I watched you on camera. You had a baby sip, and then you spit it back out into the glass.
That is
coward.
That is not true. So the Terminator smashes through the wall, just breaks through the drywall, and pulls her out.
Which is like a centimeter thick, by the way, when you look at it.
This is not a quote-unquote clean room. She just bashes through the wall, pulls her out, and then makes an exit with his grenade launcher, and they head down the hallway. So he is unimpeded by the floor plan of this building. He is not...
Poor Sarah is just being tossed around. Like, he busts through the wall, grabs her, tosses her into the other room. She's like spinning like a top.
Yeah.
And then as soon as she catches her balance, she sees him with the grenade launcher, and then she has to dive to the side to get her son out of the way. He's like, get down! Poor Sarah. She's just getting thrown all over the place.
Get down again.
Get down. Get down again. Oh my God. That's a Pablo Francisco quote.
That's right. Get down.
Wow.
Twice
get down.
the action. Get down again.
Google Pablo Francisco Little Tortilla Boy if you don't know what if Jeff and I are talking about. He's a comedian, and he does a Arnold Schwarzenegger spoof movie trailer. It's brilliant. It's
Melanie
fantastic.
Nelson, we're talking to
Continue.
you.
Yeah.
So meanwhile, the SWAT guys are closing in on Dyson, and he is holding the remote, but he's holding it over a switch. And they come around the corner, and he's doing this gasping thing. And he says, I don't know how much longer I can hold this. He's doing this crazy, amazing death scene, and there's a little bit about it in the tidbit. So he's gasping, and then finally he gasps his last breath, and he drops the remote on the switch, and boom! The entire first floor of Nakatomi Plaza goes bye-bye.
Hasta la vista, baby.
So the Terminator goes out through the lobby. He's trying to forge an exit for his gang.
Forge.
And he's
Forge
got this.
is a good term.
He's got this like it's almost like a Tommy gun that launches tear gas. So he's tear gassing.
That's the cops thing.
Yeah.
He picks that up off the desk.
Yeah. So he's
It's a neat thing. Is that in the firearms database?
It is.
Okay.
But I don't think it's a tear gas gun IRL. But that's how they use it in the movie. So he's all these tear gas canisters, and the cops are, going down one by one. And then he gets in this big truck, and he finds the keys tucked into the visor.
Yep. He's learning.
And he drives this truck into the building so he can pick up Sarah and John and they can get in to escape. Another GTA moment, driving a truck into a building. Meanwhile, T-1000 is driving his Chips cycle through the building, sees them escaping, and rides the bike out the window to leap onto a chopper.
Does the T-1000 get to the chopper?
He gets to the chopper. He head bashes the window of the chopper and then oozes in. And this is my favorite part. He doesn't use his metal spiky finger power. He just tells the driver, get out. And the driver leaps
out of his helicopter.
Out of the helicopter.
In the air. I hope he was not injured too badly.
Which, if a metallic ooze crawled in through my chopper window, I might jump too.
I'm not sure I would have waited for it to form a human face to say, get out.
Yeah. Now in the chopper, he takes off after John and company. The action certainly doesn't stop here, but from here on out, it's a direct battle between John and company and the T-1000. So I'm calling this end of the road back.
I completely agree.
Awesome.
Which?
This beer is getting better.
Oh, talk about it.
I can taste the chocolate now, and the bitterness and the pepper are hitting me at the same time. And I've never liked a spicy beer before, but this is just the right amount of spice.
I know that when some confectionaries make chocolate, they'll mix chili powder into it, and that is supposed to kind of heighten the chocolatiness of the candy. Is that the sense you're getting, or is it a chili, like a jalapeno burn kind of chili spice?
It's that other kind of chili powder. But
is it? Okay.
I will say that molasses sweetness is still the dominant note.
Okay.
So it's kind of overwhelming the chocolatey flavor, but it's getting better.
We will now ooze into Resurrection, or the Master of Two Worlds. Don't ever make that sound again. The hero faces death one more time in a final battle or showdown. This time, the danger is at the apex. T-1000 has commandeered the helicopter,
the
chopper, and is pursuing John and Sarah in their rinky-dink SWAT van.
Mm-hmm.
And T-1000 has uploaded some pretty serious chopper piloting skills programs to his mainframe. He flies underneath a freeway overpass. Again, this is GTA.
Yeah.
I've done it in GTA. I haven't done it in real life yet. You will not hear from me if I try it in real life. And firing out of the helicopter, he made a hole in the windshield when he head bashed to get into the pilot's seat. Now he is firing out that hole with his Uzi, I think. I think it was an Uzi. Anyway.
Yeah.
And Sarah is shooting out the back of the SWAT van. She's covered John in bulletproof vests and told him to stay down.
Stay down.
And get down.
Why are you talking like that, Mom? Shut up.
The SWAT van wrecks. They have to commandeer this dude's little gardening pickup truck. It's got this adorable little wooden shed on the back.
Snoopy doghouse on the back.
It is
there.
totally a Snoopy doghouse. I'm glad
Yeah.
you said that. That's exactly what that is. While the helicopter has wrecked and the T-1000 has jumped into a semi-truck that is hauling a tanker trailer full of liquid nitrogen. This is not a dangerous scenario. And there's a chase off the freeway through the streets of LA. Probably Long Beach, actually.
The tanker, by the way, the tanker was designed by the same guy who built the walls in the clean room, because the walls of this tank are like a step or two up from aluminum foil. It's like a Coke can on a trailer, basically.
Yeah, when they crash into that steel foundry, this tanker trailer splits like a Kit Kat. It's just snap into a Slim Jim. This thing, and just dumps thousands of gallons of liquid nitrogen into this steel foundry. And we begin to think the end is nigh, because the T-1000 gets out of the cab of this truck.
How's that guava juice treating you?
It's amazing. It's great. I'm really enjoying it. I'm almost done. Anyway, so the T-1000 gets out of this truck and he starts walking through the liquid nitrogen, but it starts to freeze him because he is liquid metal. And he continues walking because his files don't include the danger of liquid nitrogen to his constitution. And his legs start breaking off and collapsing, and then he lands on his hand and he tries to pick his hand up off the ground and it snaps off, and he freezes as he looks at his stump with this very human expression of surprise on his face.
Yeah.
And Arnold pulls out a gun and he says, "Hasta la vista, baby." And he fires a shot, and the frozen T-1000 explodes into Christmas tinsel. We think the battle is over.
Yeah.
But then the Terminator recognizes that the heat of the steel foundry is melting the shards of the T-1000, which are then somehow finding one another. They're drawn to one another. They're almost sentient.
Yeah.
It's an unsettling moment because it makes you wonder what else this thing can do.
Yeah.
And it reforms again into the T-1000. And the chase continues as John and Sarah and the Terminator flee through the steel foundry. Uncle Bob and the T-1000 now, they get into this fight.
Yeah.
The fight between the two of them, when they punch each other, it's like these metallic chings. Ching, ching, these noises. It's like two chunks of metal slamming into one another. I think this is probably another reason why this film won an Academy Award for sound effects.
Yeah, the sound really creates the texture of their bodies in your mind, because they look human, but they sound like metal, and it really makes them robots.
Yes.
In an auditory way. And without that level of sound, you wouldn't quite buy them as robots. It's really almost Star Wars level of puts you in the world.
At some point, Uncle Bob, he gets his arm caught in an industrial gear and he has to 127 hours himself out of it to continue the fight. But ultimately, the T-1000 prevails as he drives a steel rod, I'm assuming it's steel, they're in a steel foundry, through the Terminator, pinning him to the floor, and we see that HUD perspective of the Terminator as it powers off.
Yeah.
We think the Terminator, the guardian of John Connor, has been defeated. And then the T-1000 leaves in search of his human prey.
I want to flag one thing before we go on that's in the extended cut, but I don't believe is in the theatrical film.
Yes. Let's hear it.
So as the T-1000 is stalking them in the spark and lava factory, there's a shot where he kind of glitches, and it's kind of unexplained, but in the director's cut, there are several moments where he puts his hand on one of those black and yellow striped emergency rails, and his hand takes on the color like a chameleon.
Oh,
and his
neat.
boots, he's walking along, and his boots become that corrugated steel catwalk. So the explosion when he's frozen and gets shot has clearly caused some kind of damage. So he's malfunctioning a little bit. And it comes back in a very crucial way at the end of the movie, which I'll flag when you get there. But they're just little shots, like seconds. I don't understand why this wasn't in the final cut, because they add so much to the tension.
That is not the theatrical cut. And I am like you. Now that having heard that, I wish that was in there, because that would give you this sense that the T-1000 is malfunctioning. Maybe they cut it because they didn't want viewers to think that the T-1000 had been weakened. They wanted viewers to think that the T-1000 was still at full strength, and that it can even be exploded into shards and still reconstitute and be at full fighting strength.
But at the risk of spoiling what could have been a tidbit, but I think it's better served here, the scene where he glitches, do you know what I'm talking about? Where that sort of line goes up through his body as he's stalking them?
Yes.
That was a digital effects screw up that they kept in the film because it was interesting. That's what I read.
Yeah, okay.
So those other things justify that and contain, like, go along with that in a way that I thought was brilliant. Anyway, please continue.
Back to the narrative, the T-1000 has left, and then we see again the Terminator's HUD perspective, and we see what looks like a circuit boardish kind of a thing, and this little line goes across, and we see text, like, rerouting.
Yeah.
And he powers up again, and then pulls that rod that's pinning him to the floor out of himself. And again, you hear that metal on metal grating.
Makes your teeth go on edge. Yeah.
Yes, it does. And he's back in the fight. Meanwhile, the T-1000 has found Sarah. She has, to establish her badassery. You talked earlier specifically about the Terminator and his one-handed shotgun reloading, spinning the trigger guard on his finger to reload.
Yeah.
Well, now Sarah is one-armed shotgun pumping.
So good.
As she is firing this thing into the T-1000. I mean, just establishing that Sarah Connor is as badass as Arnold's Terminator is.
I have a tidbit about that moment.
Wait, no, I've got this entirely out of order. The T-1000 has found Sarah and forms his finger into a javelin and has pinned her to a wall and is twisting it in her shoulder. It's got to be incredibly. And he's saying, "Call to John now." The T-1000 is now torturing Sarah to try to get her to call him back for help.
Which I have a question for you.
This is when
I have a question for you on this part, because I didn't understand, and I didn't know if it was a continuity error or if I didn't understand. So we've seen the T-1000 imitate foster mom's voice perfectly on the phone.
Yeah.
Why does he need Sarah to call out to John? Why doesn't he just kill Sarah and then use his own voice and copy her? I don't understand why.
Has he heard her speak yet?
Mm-hmm. She says all sorts of stuff to him. F you, and no, I'm not gonna. I don't know. I think that's a little hole in the...
She's talking back to him while he's saying, "Call to John, I know this hurts," and she's saying, "F you."
That's a little continuity issue or a little logic problem.
But then he does, after that scene, then he does imitate her voice.
Right, so
maybe that's all it took.
The only reason he doesn't kill her is because it's convenient to the plot for her to still be alive. That's the only, because why wouldn't he kill her? Because he can imitate her and then get to John and kill John. He doesn't need her anymore.
Yeah, maybe that is a little bit of a hole, because we don't know how... because then we see the Arnold Terminator power back on.
Right.
We hear Sarah's voice calling out John.
Well, no, first Arnold appears behind T-1000 and, like, brings that metal bar down and splits him in two. That's how he rescues Sarah.
Oh God, that's right. See, I've got the sequence totally.
Look, there's a lot of catwalk lava factory stuff. So he brings the thing and splits T-1000.
That's how she gets away.
Yes.
Right. While she's being tortured, the Terminator appears, brings a rod or so of some. Oh, it's probably the rod that he got stabbed with.
He hasn't been stabbed with it yet.
This is after he frees his arm.
Yes.
Oh my God. This sequence, I can't even.
You couldn't be expected
I shouldn't be expected to.
So yeah.
No problemo.
Anyway, all of this culminating in Sarah Connor one-handed shotgun pumping the T-1000, and she runs out of ammo. And just as the T-1000 is like reforming itself one final time, and then he does that no finger wag.
Oh, the finger wag. Great Robert Patrick moment.
And then starts to approach her, the original Terminator like rolls up into frame on the back of this, is it a conveyor belt or a giant gear or something, with his grenade launcher pointed. Sarah sees it, drops her and John to the ground. Kablamo! This grenade impales the T-1000 right in the gut, and it detonates.
Yeah.
And it turns into this metallic, shrieking, weird, The Thing looking.
Yeah. It's like all bent, like the head is on this one arm of the Thing, and the other half of his body is like waving like a broken tree branch.
But I immediately thought of John Carpenter's The Thing when I saw this. It looked like with the head that was all like askew, and
I thought of the Sam Neill film Leviathan, that sci-fi film with the creature that absorbs people as it kills, and all their faces are stuck out of its blob screaming and stuff.
Oh, okay, that could work too. We've got this weird, freakish thing that then falls backward off the catwalk into a vat of molten steel, and then we see the T-1000 cycle through all of his costume changes as the unit freaks out in its death throes. Before finally melting away.
Vomiting its own throat out. It sort of turns inside out.
Yeah. That was a bizarre... And the sound... The score, I'm assuming it was Brad Fiedel's score, where it's this weird, like, repeating, squeaking noise. It was... It was bizarre. Okay, well, I apologize for getting that entire sequence out of order in my head, but I think we landed in the important place here at the end of the scene.
To me, the end of the resurrection happens when John helps Cyberdyne 101, the original Terminator, to his feet. And he looks horrible. And he says, I need a vacation.
I need a vacation.
And John...
Which is a very human phrase.
Yeah, exactly.
A machine would not know.
Tidbit. So John throws the arm and the chip in, and they melt in the steel.
Oh, this is resurrection for you.
Yeah, this is still resurrection.
Okay.
Arnold says, I have to go too.
Yeah.
The chip in my head has to be destroyed.
Right.
And John is distraught. He's, don't go. We can stay together.
I order you to stay. I order you to stay.
And the Terminator reaches a gloved hand and wipes away a tear that's streaming down John's cheek and says, I know now why you cry, but it is something I can never do. So he embraces John and he shakes Sarah's hand. Like, this is Sarah really accepting the Terminator's heroic act. And he says goodbye. And he says, I can't self-terminate. You have to lower me into the steel. And Sarah lowers him into the vat of lava. And his head goes under, but he keeps one arm up and he gives a thumbs up.
The thumbs up.
So that's what I saw as the end of Resurrection, is actually the death of the Terminator, and therefore the completion of the cycle.
That's true.
The bad future can't happen now. Everything's been wiped out. So that leads us to Return with the Elixir. The hero, having won some precious treasure or reward, now returns to the ordinary world to share the spoils of battle. So here we see a simple visual of the yellow dotted line of a highway. It's a callback to Sarah's voiceover moment where she says, the future is unwritten. But we're swerving left and right.
Did you mean to quote Joe Strummer there?
Yes, absolutely. We're swerving left and right over this line. So it's either Sarah driving injured or John driving poorly. Right? Either swerving back and forth over the line. I'm like, what is that? And we have Sarah's voiceover. The unknown future rolls toward us. I face it for the first time with a sense of hope. Because if a machine, a Terminator, can learn the value of human life, maybe we can too. So the Terminator has died, but he has prevented the rise of Skynet by destroying Dyson's work and the chip and protecting John, who will now live to start the resistance if they need one because the Terminators are destroyed now. See future sequels for clarification. Fade to black. Cha-chung, chung, cha-chung.
Yep.
Cha-chung, chung, cha-chung.
What a great film.
Yeah.
Some of the effects are starting to show their age now, but at the time, this film was revolutionary.
It still is. It set a new standard that, I mean, it's still being improved on today. I love this movie. I mean, this is one of the formative movies of my one day being an actor, filmmaker experience. In fact, as I was sorting through photos of myself, I found one from high school.
Do you do that often? Sort through photos of yourself?
I can't remember why I was doing it. I can't remember if it was pure...
Look at this photo. Look at this photo of me. I'm so handsome.
I can't remember if it was pure vanity or if I was doing it for a project or something. But I found this photo of me from 91 or 92. You can see part of my bedroom wall in the background. And on two different walls are two different movie posters. One is the poster for Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, which we just covered, and the other one was for Terminator 2, like right next to each other. So those were big movies for me in this.
This episode brought to you by Jeff's Teenage Angst bedroom. Not pictured, some kind of wonderful.
Absolutely, some kind of wonderful on the other wall. And all the Oingo Boingo long boxes. Remember the CD long boxes? Where they first converted the LP racks to CD racks. I had every single one I ever bought pinned to the wall as art on the other wall.
Wow. Listeners, thank you so much for joining us. If you enjoyed this episode, please help us spread the word. Introduce us to your movie and book-loving friends. Rate us on Apple Podcasts. Write a quick review if you can. That would be a huge help to us, as that helps increase the visibility of the podcast on these various podcast apps.
If you're interested in directly supporting the podcast, please go to patreon.com/heroesjourneypodcast, and you can join us as an ally to earn access to each episode's bonus audio content, where we discuss fun trivia about the book or movie we just covered. You can join us as a mentor to receive the ally benefit, plus you earn the right to vote on the subject of each episode. And if you had joined, you could have pushed True Lies over the edge and not been listening to Terminator 2, but you'd still hear Dan's Arnold impression. You can join us as a hero to get all those benefits, plus earn access to bonus video content where we meta-analyze the episode, throw shade at ourselves, and
each other.
And we consume our second or third serving of whichever beverage we selected. Plus, now we're adding video of the beverage break, so in the future, if Dan drinks 120 proof whiskey, you can watch him spit it right at the camera. Finally, if you join as a demigod...
Hey, I swallowed that like a real champ.
You did, but you coughed for a good 15 seconds, and it was hilarious. Listen to the Robin Hood episode and go to the beverage sequence if you want to hear that hilarity. Finally, you can join us as a demigod to receive all the previously mentioned benefits, plus a special shout out in the credits of every single episode.
Like right now! We would like to thank all patrons who make this show possible, including our demigod patrons, Scott Sanford, Ricky Garvin, John Peterson Jr., Jeff Scott, Joseph Wilbur, Michelle Calderon, Ami Garvin, Salathiel Jones, and our newest patrons, Jasmine and Peter Hudson.
Special thanks to Dean Eppington for designing the Hero's Journey logo, Taylor Jordan for composing the theme, and Jason Dorff for our episode artwork. Please support these creative people who help make this podcast special by going to our website, heroesjourneypodcast.com, click on About, and you can see links to all their profiles and web pages.
And if you have any comments or questions about this episode, comment on the episode post on Twitter or Instagram. We would love to interact with you there. Our Twitter handle is @HeroesPodcast. And we're on Instagram as Heroes Journey Podcast. We hope to see you there.
Yeah, unless you're going to argue with me and side with Dan about some really important function of the journey, which happened with the
That was
Robin
important for
episode,
me.
where I got put on blast and Dan got all validated. It did not help me. So if that's
don't
what
be
you're doing,
wrong to
stay
that level.
off our social. Just get off of our social. I want to hear from you. Only want to hear from you if you agree with me. Terminator 2 Judgment Day is copyright 1991 Carolco Pictures, Inc.
Thanks again for listening. Until next time.
Journey on.
Say, that's a nice bike.